It looks like they just had a rough time. Look at that. Hello, mathematicians. Today we finally got a heat map diving deep into the meta decks and what their weaknesses are. And yes, this heat map is made up of over 10K recorded games that we got from the Duelist Cup. Oh, and I've made some crazy discoveries with the data because I own the big data guy, assuming Tempai's surprise weakness. I can't believe it. And also a surprise best deck in the Duelist Cup. And it's not what you think. It's not going to be Snake Eyes or Tempai. And all of this data, by the way, is a big thank you to Nizu, who actually organized this whole thing and got a bunch of people together to put in all this data, and we were able to record over 10K games in the Duelist Cup thanks to these very strong, a lot of professional players, active players in the community, and it's all thanks to Nizu. I'm going to go more on him later in the video, but really just wanted to give him a shout out early in the video too, because this is a team effort and he had a big thing to do. So real quick, how the data was collected, because I don't want to give you guys skewed data. Let's show you how it was collected real quick. He would have us, right? This is all of us here. Like, it was this conglomeration of people. I think there was over 50 of us that was contributing to doing the data. We would say what deck we used, and then we would say what the opponent's deck, if we went first or second, the result, our points before or after, and it gave us some data, and that data that it would give led to this giant heat map here. Yes, it's so big right now. This is the zoomed out version, and I didn't even catch it. It goes down even more, but we're going to go really in depth on this, and I'm going to zoom in, and we're going to talk about it, and it's going to be really interesting because I got a lot of stuff to say about it. Again, including some surprise weaknesses I found of Tempai and some Snake Eyes. Had some really good, interesting stuff, but also what I wanted to promise to tell you too is the surprise best deck that I found going with this data here that we also gathered. We could get the win rates going first and going second, and there was a deck that actually had more win rates going first and going second. Now you could see here that the best win rate looks to be like Chimera, but it has a very abysmal going second win rate and pretty much overall 100%. Like, I don't really like that. Really, what's interesting to me is, well, first, I do want to also point out that the deck that won was Snake Eyes, and he also, I guess, bounced back between Snake Eyes and Ritual Beast. So it's good to know that that is solid, and it does have solid numbers. If you add up both of these going first and second, it's about 110, that looks like. Yeah, and having a good overall win rate of 47%. But there is another deck that I really want to turn your attention to. Take a look at the deck that came in second here. Branded. Branded came in second, the whole thing. And look at this. It's the only deck here that has a positive over 50%, right? Oh, because that was the next one that came closest, was maybe Exodia. Over 50% rate going first and second. The only deck list to do that. And has a really good win rate going first at that. So even though it only had an overall win rate of 56, I do want to highlight that because that's a really, if you add them together, that's a 118% win rate going like if you add these two together. Really interesting. And also I want to point out too, this guy in particular, by the way, look at this card right here. Nobody runs this card. This is just completely aside from the heat map and other stuff. I just like to point out random obsculate data right here. Ally of Judge's Cycle Reader right here. During either player's turn, discard this card to the graveyard, target 2 light monsters in your opponent's graveyard, banish those targets. So quick effect, really, to discard this card and banish 2 light monsters. Very interesting that he brought that in his main deck, 60 card deck, by the way. He was using that. If me or you included that in our deck, people would call us crazy. But look, that guy got global rank 2 main decking, also a 60 card deck. I'm a big fan of 60 card decks. So not only is he using a good tech card, it's the reason why I think 60 card decks, when built properly, can definitely beat 40 card decks. And that's really good information there to show. But again, going to this win rate data, you can see here we've got a lot of good win rates here with these couple things. I wouldn't really look at these data here down here because, again, a lot of it is skewed. Ritual Beast actually having the highest win rate, tied with Chimera going anything, if anything, having probably the best consistency-wise, because that's also 111 right there. A really good amount, but I just don't like it's going second win percentage. Anyways, let's move on to something real quick. Before we talk about the heat maps, I do want to talk about how you can get involved if you want to do this kind of thing. You could reach out to Nezu, but here are the rules so you know what you're getting yourself into. You have to play at least 100 games during the Duelist Cup weekend. So not following those rules could get you into an immediate permanent ban. So just letting you know, if you want to get into this Discord, contact him, but only if you're serious about it. And he did give me a pass. I was only able to do 33 games over it, but I was so busy with making videos and stuff, but he did give me a pass on it. So really big thank you to him, and I give him all the credit. I asked him if he wanted to remain anonymous, and he wants the credit, and he does. He gets full credit. Give him a huge thank you, because the data that I'm going to talk about next, the heat map data, could not have been done without this guy right here, Nezu, or maybe it's Nizu, I don't know, but whatever. What I do know is this guy is a huge blessing for the community. So awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And he wants more help in finding more participants, because there was about 50 of us it's going on at slobber knocking away. And again, the guy that won in this thing did over 350 games, so really kudos to him. I feel bad I was only able to do 33 games, but I was really busy over the weekend. But he wasn't mad at all that I wasn't able to do my 100 games. So thank goodness, he's a really good guy. Also, if you like these kind of videos, before I go into the heat map and stuff, give us a like, join our Discord. We have our own separate Discord too. Give us a like, and for more math and stats, come give us a sub, and let's dive into the heat map, because that's where we're going to find out what Tempai and Snake Eyes are really weak to. And I want to dive into that so bad. Let's talk about it right now. Okay, so here we go. We have the heat map here, and right away, I want to start with the Tempai Dragon heat map. Why do I want to start with Tempai Dragon? Because so many people are like, I can't stand Tempai. How do I beat it, right? And it's such an interesting deck. It's a go second deck. So let's look at Tempai first. We'll look at all some of the other meta contentions ones. Look at this. A lot of matches against Snake Eye. 56% win ratio against Snake Eye, which was probably considered the best deck in that event in the most recent Duelist Cup. You can see here, so anything between, like, I would say 50 and 60%, like 45 to 55%. Would be like neutral. 65% really taking a beating to, really giving a beating, I should say, to Rescue Ace. Now, here's something interesting. Look at this. Stun and Labyrinth, 39% and 40% respectively win rate, which means it's losing to them like 60% of the time. And what's really interesting about these decks is they have something in common. They're both back row heavy decks. So it's giving way to saying that, hey, Tempai might be very weak to these back row heavy decks, even though they usually slot in like Heavy Storm, a Feathers Duster, Lightning Storm. They're still losing more than they're winning by a fair amount. And maybe it's because, too, they're having good times against Snake Eyes and stuff, those more monster-heavy decks, because they run the Forbidden Droplets, the Ash Blossoms, and stuff like that. And maybe that's having more of, like, the hand traps. They're having more of an effect on the Stun and Labyrinth. These back row decks, they're not really affecting them, but they're having more effect on the monster-heavy matchups. Let's continue. Let's see if we can see something here. Like, look at that. Like, these good win ratios against Voiceless and Unchained. Really taking it to Galaxy Tachyon, even though they were just 8 and 3. So that's not a big enough, I wouldn't say that's a big enough, what would you call it, like, range of numbers. I would say anything that's like 50 matches or more. Like, look at this, 64 and 50, having a good 50%. That's a good data pool, I would say. You know what I'm saying? If we got over 50 matches. Let's keep going here. I don't want to count this Ignister because there's only 3 matches. That's not a good enough sample size. Look at this, Dynamorphia. Oh my gosh. It went 19 and 50. Only a 28% win ratio. Tempai again, Dynamorphia, a back row heavy deck. So there we go. Something to note that these back row heavy decks are really putting it to Tempai Dragon. So if Tempai is your weakness and you really want to give it to Tempai, I would say play a back row heavy deck. Let's look at something else. Let's take a look at Snake Eyes, which was considered the best event, the best deck to use in the event. Of course, it went 50% against its own type here. Let's see. Yup, losing to Tempai, of course. Yup, and you can see here the math does math here, because 56 here, 44 there, that equals 100. You know, we always want to make sure the math is mathing. That's how you make sure stuff is adding up there. So, yeah, losing to Tempai. What else does Snake Eyes lose to? Interesting, Rescue Ace, but that's too much of a small sample size. Not enough people were using Rescue Ace, and I don't want to count that in. Losing to Blue Eyes, Labyrinth, and this was Blue Eyes, I believe, before the Primate came out. Primate recently came out, this recent pack, so I can assure you that the Blue Eyes is going to do even better here. Went 82 to 95. All right, losing there, pretty much doing good against everyone else. The Math Mech, maybe, no, just 5 and 6. That's not a good enough sample size. I want something with good girth. Again, Dynamorphia here, losing to Dynamorphia 20 to 33. But interestingly enough, the stats on Dynamorphia weren't that crazy. So why if are these big decks losing to Dynamorphia? Interesting, interesting. And then the numbers start getting low there. Actually, that's pretty big here. Ritual Beast just barely beating them there. Can I go down to, interesting, let's go down to Dynamorphia. I don't think there was many Dynamorphia players that are in the stats and statistics. You can see here, there's all these different people who played the decks and stuff, but let's see how our Dynamorphia players did. So we do have a good sample size here. Yeah, it looks like they did pretty good overall, having positive win ratios, losing to Labyrinth, okay, and only one against a voiceless voice player. I don't want to count these. So see, a lot of small sample sizes, only really having, because there was probably like only one person that played Dynamorphia in this event, going against Unknown, doing pretty good there. So that's interesting. So really then, the players that played Dynamorphia doing really good. Wow, look at that. 50 to 19, 72% win ratio Dynamorphia, our Dynamorphia player had against Tempai. Really, really good. Wow. So that is interesting. That is very, very interesting for sure. Wow. Okay, so that's good to know. Some other decks that did good. Exodia, let's take a look at that. A lot of people are playing Exodia. Really, it looks like it wasn't doing that, having that good of a matchup. So I don't see any significant data here. Not many people playing this event played Exodia. All right, so we can ignore that. Voiceless Voice was what I played. I had a good time with it. And yeah, this seems to be about what I saw. Again, not much data, because I was one of the Voiceless Voice players chugging in the data. And most of my matches went against Tempai. And I had about like a 50% win ratio against them. So very interesting. We can look at my data later if we want. But another deck I do want to highlight is the Branded deck, because remember, Branded actually secretly had the most win rate of all of these decks here. Even though, look at this, it lost 41% of the time to Snake Eyes, but it made up for that with 59% winning White Forest. Again, losing to Tempai, so it's actually losing to the most meta threats, but then if it's playing anything that's not those, doing really good against the trap decks. So funny enough, the meta decks were struggling against the trap decks. Branded excels against the trap decks, and maybe because it's very good in the grind game. Branded does have that slobber knocker. It keeps coming back, and really good in the grind game. Losing to Blue Eyes, though, a good amount. So Branded is something very interesting to know. Really taking it to Exodia, but just only 5-1. The sample size on Branded, really small. Really small. So I did want to see that. So, 75% too. Played a good deal of unknown decks. And it's unknown because sometimes they either, like Branded goes first, they do their combo, and then they give up. So we didn't know what they played. So sometimes it's an unknown deck when we didn't know what they played, because you can't go back into the replays to look what they played. So a lot of times I'm guessing when they saw they were up against Branded, people just giving up too. So that's interesting there. Again, they didn't do that well against Tempai and Snake Eyes, but it still technically had a really good overall win rate going first and second. So that's really good to know. Good to know. And then just did good against White Forest. Let's take a look at White Forest, speaking of which. A lot of people played White Forest, and it looks like it did just like fairly middle of the pack. Look at all these 50% win ratios. Really giving it to tier elements, though, huh? Just staying in a nice 50% win ratio, really giving it to tier. And then Voiceless Voice, again, not that many players there, but yeah, right in the middle of the pack, losing their only 2 games against Unchained there. But yeah, nothing too crazy. Well, having about a 50% win ratio against the Dynamorphia. So interesting, so interesting. I really like to look at these stats and analyze them. That's what. And then again, Drytron there. Let's see how it did against the Unknown. 147 to 27. So what happened is people, like, they're going against White Forest. White Forest is doing their long combo, and they're like, no, I quit. Speaking of which, a lot of people really quit against tier when they're doing all of their millings. They can't take it. They're like, no, that's too long. So that's really good to see the unknown percentage, which is just like, if you're able to combo off. Look at Snake Eyes winning 88% chance. They're just like, yeah. Wait, I like how there's some losses to unknown. Like, how do you lose against? How do you not know what you lost to? Did you just give up and like, I bricked. I just give up. So that's kind of interesting. I would never give up, especially if I don't know what I'm playing against. I want to at least see if they brick or not. So some funny stuff there. I can't believe that. But yeah, people giving up to Blue Eyes the most, it looks like. Very, very interesting. I say Blue Eyes the most, even though Rescuist has 100%. But again, I won't count it unless there's at least 50 games played. I need to see at least a substantial sample size. I'll count this as enough, almost 50 games. That 91% is really good there. Really, really good. I want to see if anything else got a big sample size. Usually the lower I get, definitely less sample size. So really, really good. And again, this is just really fun to see. And you could have saw they had like a trending deck section, which was interesting. You could see who did good. Congratulations again to Nickel Boy, who accumulated so many points. I couldn't compete that much in the event, so I'm over here barely contributing to the data. I came in like 40th place. So again, I played my voiceless voice, and I was going against a lot of Tempai. I played about 33 matches, but the guy that won did about, let me see, Nick Boy. I believe he recorded. Look, so you can see if you went first or second. You record your points, you record your opponent's deck. The guy that won did Tempai Dragon, used Tempai Dragon for the event of our big people that did it, and he accumulated so many points, 324 matches of data he gave. Look at that. So not only was he doing a lot of matches, but he was contributing a lot of data to the event. So thank you for that, for contributing to data and making us all better players, because we really love to see all the different decks that was in here. We used a variety of decks. Over 50 decks were used, deck types for this. So we accumulated data. And again, taking a look at that heat map, I'll just go over like this so you guys can stop and see if there's like certain data you need to see or wanted to see. Because again, it's really hard when you're looking at the heat map to kind of see what you wanted to see. And there's a lot to take in. There's a lot with this, right? Let's look at Cash Tier. Maybe some people want to look at our Cash Tier players. They have a unique game plan. Again, kind of middle of the pack. Doesn't really stand out on anything. Again, having a good matchup against Tier. I feel like Tier really wasn't doing that well. Going to the end there. Again, going against Unknown. All right. Nothing really of note. Interesting. But I do want to go to Tier now, because it looks like they just had a rough time. Look at that. Tier having a rough time versus Snake Eyes. Having a rough time versus White Forest. Just having a rough time in general. Maybe, and I don't want to sound too crazy, but then maybe we could take one, something off of the ban list for Tier, because it looks like they're having a rough time. But as soon as I say that, I mean, a lot of their cards are banned. So that's just something to maybe wonder, because they didn't do quite good. So I wonder if Konami kind of looks at this stuff too and looks at the heat map. So again, if you're playing in the Master Duel event, the next Duelist Cup, I wouldn't take Tier, because it looks like they had a pretty rough time. So yeah, and interesting, these trap decks, again, had a bad time versus some, and then had a really good time versus others. So the trap decks having, oh no, that's not right here. These two trap decks, middling against Snake Eyes, but then doing really good against Tempai. These trap decks really giving it to Tempai, giving them a good shellacking. Wow. So these two trap decks, I like how they're together too, so we can analyze the data that way. Nice, nice, nice. Let's see, against the unknown decks too. Yeah, see, won't really play against that many unknown decks, because if they're a trap deck, you'll kind of know, and their turns don't take too long. So very interesting. I like to see this data. The best thing about this data, I would say, is the meta decks actually had a very hard time playing against stun and trap based deck. So if you don't like playing against Snake Eyes and Tempai, your best bet I would say learn Dynamorphia, learn stun. I say that with an asterisk, because I don't think anybody should learn stun. That's the unhealthy. But learn Labyrinth then. Labyrinth's kind of fun, and I think Labyrinth is a fun deck because it's a healthy, more trap based deck and more skillful. So yeah, learn Labyrinth, learn Dynamorphia. Dynamorphia is kind of stunned. Learn Labyrinth. If you don't like these meta decks, learn Labyrinth. That's what I'm just gonna stay with that. Really cool stuff analyzing that heat map. Okay, and to finish off, this replay was sent in by Lucky Bread. Lucky Bread's going first. He's got something to show me, he said. And all right, and we're going against the player. Right, he's a player. All right, we're getting some Anking, baby. We're gonna get some Exodia going on. Shield of the Millennium Ankh. We're just gonna show that bad boy. Now we're gonna have two Ankhs in the hand. You know, they say a bird in the hand is better than a bird in the bush. Well, here, two Ankhs in the hand is better than two shields in the bush, I guess. And now we're going into the Golem. The Golem's just gonna show stuff. So basically, that just means we don't have to pay any life points. Gonna get that temple. What's the temple we're gonna go into now? What are we gonna go into? We're going to show basically both of these. We're going to show the Ankh again. Just getting a lot of these Millennium cards out. Ooh, a Maiden of the Millennium Moon. This card's not played that often. Interesting. All right, now what are you going to go into here? You're going to go into the Silhouette Rabbit. Interesting because the rabbit does get rid of itself when we do Ankh. So we're going to use that for the Angel statue. And now here we go. He's, of course, going to use the shiny one he got. Nice gold at the top there. Really showing us the power of the Egyptian wealth. Going into the Unstoppable Exodia Carnate. I love this. And let's take a look at what the Maiden of the Moon does real quick. If your opponent activates any kind of card, special summon it, and then they can't target level 5 or higher illusion or spellcaster monsters with card effects. Well, that's an illusion or higher spellcaster monster that can't get targeted by card effects. But what's going on? Why wait. No, why didn't we negate this? Oh no. You should have just negated that first before you did that. Now he's negated anyways. Unless there's something I'm missing here. That's a misplay. You had to negate. You could have negated the Imperm, then got that, because at least you'd have Exodia right now without Imperm, then summon this afterwards. Oh no, I think that's a horrible misplay. Alright, so now we're going against a Blue Eyes player, and we misplayed ourselves. So I believe we misplayed, even though I really like this. I love it when players bring these unique cards. This card, not really used that much in Millennium, and I was looking forward to see this tech coming in clutch. But I think you're so interested in showing me this tech. But what still works, though, is this Fires of Rage. This will destroy stuff, but no. He's got the Primate Drill Beam, and Drill Beam really puts in work because not only does that banish, but it also negates. So get that out of here. The Fires of Rage, of course, would have destroyed all of the cards on the field, including the True Light. But now instead of True Light getting destroyed, Blue Eyes White Dragon coming out clutch here. But the Heart of the Blue Eyes, which he did discard earlier, if your special opponent special summons something that's level 8 or higher, send that to the graveyard and special summon this guy. So even though the Unstoppable Exodia is negated, his friends are still backing him up kind of pretty hard. We're seeing the cards around it still putting in work. But who else is putting in work is the Blue Eyes player. It's like he's working overtime trying to get his overtime hours because he's still comboing through this. He does not care that you just did all that stuff that he's showing. In fact, now he's going to go into Tyrant Dragon here. Tyrant Dragon, deadly, can attack all your opponent's monsters once each. That is, if he did it, came out summoned naturally, but Angel Summon is going to come out and stop that. And then basically, I'm lagging a little bit behind here. So the Angel Summon, hold on. The Angel statue stopped the Tyrant Dragon, which came out because that came out naturally. So that when they come out naturally like that, the Angel statue can stop that. The inherent summon, we like to call that. So that's how that guy get away, because otherwise Tyrant Dragon would have been able to attack everything once each. And then the Spirit with Blue Eyes just attacked the Exodia cards, which is pretty cool. And then, ew, Time Tearing Morganite. Not really a fan of that card, but it is what it is. Kind of cool. All right, so what do we got here? Blue Eyes, gonna target some stuff, explode this. That's gonna send everything in the backfield. That's pretty cool. Probably Doom Dragon here. Whenever I see two cards in the backfield go away, I know it's going to be Doom Dragon. Spirit of Blue Eyes gets targeted, but that's not going to matter because Effect Veiler's here to come and clutch off the top rope, getting tag teamed in like the Hardy Boys coming in, stopping the Doom Dragon, but we still have a lot of my bodies on the field, so what are we going to do? And we still have the Millennium Ankh, the second Millennium Ankh, going into SP Little Knight. We know that SP Little Knight's going to be able to maybe get rid of something. Ooh, getting rid of Drill Beam. Good target, because we know how endless recursion that is. And no, we're not going to use the Ankh. Do we have one of the Millennium cards in here? The Grave? Why can't we use that Ankh? I don't know why. Maybe that's something I miss overlooked. I don't know why we can't use Ankh, but apparently we can't use Ankh right now, which I don't know why. Unless he only has one Unstoppable Exodia Incarnate in his deck? He does! We're only wanting one Unstoppable Exodia Incarnate? Oh, that's why he can't use the second Ankh! He can only one Ankh because he's only got one Exodia. Alright, I'm missing what the Blue Eyes player is doing. He's doing something with Ultimate Dragon. Oh, you must have targeted the Blue Eyes card. Neo Blue Eyes does not like when you target the Blue Eyes cards. When this card, I probably missed some stuff because I was looking at that. By the way, if this Neo's Ultimate was probably in the card because of the Tyrant Dragon, if Neo's, if you target, by the way, let me just bring up my mouse here. When a card or effect is activated that targets a Blue Eyes monster you control, banish this card from your graveyard, negate, and destroy that card. So this is a secret protection effect that just chills in the graveyard. A lot of people forget about it, but I think that's what happened. The SP Little Knight probably targeted one of his Blue Eyes cards, And there you go. But here we go. That little Maiden of the Millennium Moon coming back again. Coming in clutch. Okay. And she counts as an illusion monster, by the way, which is really interesting. So she can't be destroyed by battle. So he's got a little bit of protection going on here. That's kind of cool, but it's crazy that you're running these Millennium cards and only one Exodia Incarnate. Definitely got to go back to the drawing board. I'd put 2 Exodia Incarnates in there. But now you're looking at something deadly here. We're looking at 2 Spirit Dragons here and turning the Spirit into an Ultimate Spirit. So, oh my gosh, deadly. And this second Ultimate Spirit is going to turn into the Crimson Dragon. Oh my gosh. And Crimson Dragon's going to target the Ultimate. And now he's going to go into Cosmic Blazar, definitely. Oh no, sorry. I misguessed there. Stardust Severe Divine Dragon. Look at me, I'm jumping the gun. I thought it was going to be Cosmic Blazar. Everyone goes into Cosmic Blazar. Even my mom goes into Cosmic Blazar. Everyone who just started playing the game goes into Cosmic Blazar. My niece who just started playing the game goes into Cosmic Blazar. But no, Stardust Severe is actually the better choice here because Stardust Severe does protect you from the cards that, because Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon would send them to the end at the end of the turn that are going to be destroyed, but he protects them. So actually that was the better choice. I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to Blue Eyes. This guy's the Blue Eyes Maxter. That's why he's doing this. All right, we're getting some more Ox stuff here. So even though we can't, we're doing that, we're still showing the Ock and getting these free special summons. So the Millennium is still putting in work, even though their bosses out of service. It's like, you know, those undercover bosses when the boss reveals himself. Well, now the boss quit, and it's just these cards going. And oh my gosh, all of these cards going into attack mode. That's a lot of damage. But again, the Waju Temple putting everything in the backfield. Nice and safe, nice and cozy. And again, nothing can stop the Millennium Moon. And because he's got no outs to this, what, he gives up? Oh my gosh, he surrenders. I think it's because he had no out to the Millennium Moon. Did he really not have an out to the Millennium Moon? Oh no, tell me, say it isn't so. Oh no. Oh, that's a crazy replay. That's a crazy replay. Anyways, if you guys got any replays, come join the Discord. Send me your replays. I love to see them. I love to cast the replays. I can't believe that. What a shocking replay. Lucky Bread living up to his name. Certainly very lucky. Congratulations, Lucky Bread. I love this replay. That's really cool. That Maiden of the Moon, maybe showing off. I love tech cards like this, and I love to showcase tech cards. Maiden of the Moon, actually great tech card. I do think you need to go back to your deck, though. Put a second Exodia Incarnate, because that would have given you a little extra work there. You could have probably reworked your extra deck there, but excellent duel. Great duel. Nice comeback victory. I thought you were absolutely going to get demolished. But anyways, using the heat maps, look at that. That Exodia deck. We just learned something new. Maybe a new counter to it could be that Maiden of the Moon. I don't know. Check it out. Anyways, see you guys next time. Like and subscribe if you like this kind of stuff. Peace.